And we are live. Howdy, everybody. God bless you. Thank you for watching live or catching the replay later. I'm here with Wendell Hurricane Burroughs of the Arkansaw Boys and Arkansaw Bigfoot Cartel. Thank you for being with me, Wendell.
Yeah, good to be.
Well, the way I titled this tonight, I thought we kind of touch on what we were talking about after the show we was on with Ricky and them about what Bigfoot is and what he ain't, and what might not be Bigfoot that people are encountering and messing with that maybe they shouldn't be.
Right. There's a lot of things out there other than Bigfoot, and some people may be getting them confused together. But
Yeah. Well, there's some things I believe. I don't believe Bigfoot. Stuff like that. Now, those could be flesh and blood creatures too, you know. But these people that are talking about them coming in their houses and talking to them in their heads, and I don't believe that's Bigfoot. It's
not from what I've
my opinion. My wrong order.
The internet's cutting out again.
A little bit of a delay. That or we're froze up, one of the two. I said, I believe we got a little bit of delay or we were froze up. I said, it's just my personal opinion that $5 will get you a wrong order down at the drive-thru.
Right. I can't tell somebody what they saw or what they've experienced, but from what I've seen and been experienced with, if they're coming into your house or you're hearing voices or they're interacting with you, you're interacting with something besides the Sasquatch.
Exactly.
It may be allowing itself to look like a Sasquatch to you, but you're dealing with a spirit that shouldn't be around, shouldn't be entertaining it.
That's what I was going to say. These people, some of them, they're not claiming they're coming in their house as in they kicked in the front door or climbed in a window. You got people saying they appeared just out of the blue inside their house. Well, obviously that's not a flesh and blood creature that can do that. I mean, flesh and blood, you have to reach down and open the doorknob or lift a window sill or something. I just feel like people need to know, you know, like I tell them, the good book tells me not to traffic with spirits, so I don't. And it ain't that I don't believe in the paranormal. I'm like you. I won't tell people what they saw or what they experienced. Because I believe full-heartedly I saw a ghost or spirit or whatever it was once. Just as well as I can see you right now. It's been years ago, but I can remember it like it was yesterday.
Oh yeah, I definitely believe it. Well, I base all my beliefs on the Bible. That might upset a lot of people, but I think that's the best tool we have to understand everything in this world. And there's spiritual stuff that it says plainly on there. You battle against principalities and spiritual stuff. So. And based on that, nowhere in the Bible does it say that giants or the mighty men or had the ability to appear or disappear. Now, only thing they did have was the angels, the fallen angels, or God Himself. As Jesus, He just walked into existence and talked to the disciples and walked out. Uh, so, if they're having something to do the same deal, it's either one of the fallen spirits or something like that, in my opinion. But like I said, opinions don't matter a lot. But from what I've seen, they better be careful with what they're dealing with.
Well, I'm like you. As far as Sasquatch goes, everything I've experienced was as flesh and blood, as solid as me or you. I mean, it went crashing down through the trees and left a trail a blind man could follow. So to me, if it was a spirit or an interdimensional being or whatever, why would it have to take off crashing through the trees if it could just vanish or jump through a portal or whatever?
Exactly.
And they leave behind physical evidence: hair, footprints, scat, blood. Best I know, spirits don't do any of those things. Now, like I said, I'm not telling anybody else what to believe. I know my pastor will tell you all spirits are evil. Ghosts, all that shit. What I saw never bothered us. In fact, it passed right behind us. I saw its reflection in the TV screen as it passed behind the sofa we were sitting on the floor in front of. Me and one of my friends' little boys. I mean, it didn't act like it even noticed us. Looked like a young woman with blonde hair with like a bonnet or a hat on her head, a white blouse, and blue jeans or a skirt, something blue. And she walked from left to right behind us and went behind. We had our backs up against the sofa playing video games. And the sofa was right up against the wall. And in the reflection on the TV, I see this woman walk behind the sofa. And I know we're the only two in the house at the time. His dad had ran to town to get something, left me there to watch him. And then a few weeks later, he had another friend, and his fiance came up and stayed a couple nights with him. And she come out of the guest bedroom and saw the same, a blonde-headed woman with her back to her walking down the hallway, turned the corner into the living room, and she spoke to her. When she didn't answer, she followed her. Well, when she turned the corner into the living room, wasn't nobody there. And there's no blonde-headed women that live in that house. So both times, it never bothered anybody. Never did nothing destructive, nothing evil per se. So I always kind of wondered exactly what we did see.
Right.
And who knows? I mean, maybe angels can take different forms and stuff. That might have been a guardian angel that was hanging around his trailer taking care of him and the kids. Because he did have one time he went to town. He said the children's bedrooms were a mess. He had a little boy and a little girl. And said he went to town, took kids with him, come back, the house had been clean. His bedrooms had been straightened up and everything. And so I ain't never heard of a ghost that cleans house, but I mean, could have
been their
like
angel.
I said, yeah. I mean, I don't know if angels do laundry and pick up toys out of the floor either, but he swears by it. He said we come home and it looked like a professional cleaner come through there and straighten their rooms up. Now that the rest of the house hadn't been touched, just the kids' room, he said. I don't know what to tell you about that. And he even researched his property, because all he had was a little single-wide trailer with an extra bedroom built onto it for him. And nobody lived there before or anything on that little patch of land he had it on. So,
right.
And that went on for years. They'd have something. Go ahead.
all the spirits being evil. I said you was talking about your pastor said all the spirits are evil. Well, the majority of them, I'd say, is because if you're a saved soul, you're going to go straight to be with Jesus in heaven. But one of the ghosts wasn't that was in the Bible, and that was Samuel when the witch called him back, and he told Saul, "What have you done? You done jeopardized yourself here by calling me back from the spirit realm." And told him he'd
Yeah.
done wrong. So that wasn't an evil ghost.
Yeah, I forgot about that. I know in the Bible it talks about imps and familiar spirits and stuff like that. And all across the world, you've got all the legends and lore, leprechauns, fairies. Different cultures have got different names from them. Native Americans called them the Pawangi and other stuff. And they all more or less fit the same description, and they sound a lot like these little critters people claim to be seeing out in the woods and stuff.
Right.
And it's a little bit of a stretch for me, but even people with UFO encounters, they see these little 2 or 3 foot tall men that supposedly got out of the spaceship. Well, what's that sound like? A leprechaun? Or a gremlin? Or a gnome? The way they describe them, I mean, there's similarities.
Yeah.
And as far as aliens and stuff, I've always been more or less convinced they're demonic.
Yep. Yeah. The majority of things that are spiritual that come down are demonic and everything.
Yeah.
But back to you said angels can take different forms.
Well, it's just like if you look in the Bible. Oh, go ahead. The delay got me again.
Oh yeah, sorry.
It's all right.
I was going to say most people don't consider. I don't really back the ancient alien theory and everything but if you get down to it, God or the creator of this world or universe is an alien, and technically because he's not of this world, he's not of this solar system, he's outside of it, and an alien is anything that comes into it. That blows a lot of people's mind. I told them at church, and they all got upset, but technically God is an alien because he's not of this dimension, creation. Yeah. So
yeah,
that's something to chew on for a minute and think about.
Well, that's kind of similar to what I tell people about. They'll say, "Do you believe Sasquatch has got a supernatural origin?" I was like, "Well, if you believe in the Bible, you and I have got a supernatural origin too. We were created. We didn't come to be naturally. He created Adam and Eve through God's power. That was a supernatural miracle or act or whatever you want to call it. It wasn't a natural. It wasn't evolution or a natural thing. He made it happen through his power. So by, like you said, very definition, that's supernatural right there."
So possibly, I mean, maybe different deals are getting put in the Bigfoot category, Sasquatch. Maybe they're just looking the same. If these are appearing and being able to walk in dimensional, they're so superior smart than us. I mean, they're not. They're coming from outer space or something like that, or they're evil spirits. But what I've seen here on Earth and flesh and blood and experienced myself is a flesh and blood creature that was same as us, created at some point, and is dwelling here and trying to make a life here on Earth just like we are. So Maybe
Well, just
that's
like the
just
other,
what's happened, in my opinion, and what I.
yeah. I was going to say, just like what we've talked about before, if they're descendants of Esau and the troglodytes or the Cainites or Cain or whoever, all those people were flesh and blood
Mm-hmm.
human beings. So their descendants would be too.
Yep. Even Goliath.
Yeah,
Goliath was a flesh and blood being.
yeah. And what I was going to say, the Nephilim, on the other hand, that everybody talks about the Nephilim, the way I understand the Bible, they were full-blown fallen angels. They were spirits. They were not flesh and blood creatures.
That's correct.
They came to earth and
That's
lay with the wives of men, so their offspring might be flesh and blood. But the Nephilim were actual full-blown spiritual fallen angels. Some of the ones that
so
got
if they're
kicked
dealing
out of
with something
heaven
that's doing
at the same time as Lucifer, is what I was going to say.
these things that they're saying, they're talking in their head, or they're able to come into their house without opening the door and everything. That's what they're dealing with. They're dealing with a full-fledged Nephilim.
And like I said, I don't think that's something you want to deal with.
Right.
Because if they got the power to walk through walls and talk inside your head and all that, what else can they do? That could be the tip of the iceberg. Whereas Sasquatch, I think a lot of the things that people experience, and like I said, I'm not telling anybody else what they experience, but a lot of it can be explained naturally, flesh and blood. Like one of the famous cases, everybody brings it up and talks about it, and I believe Stan Gordon was the first one reported it. The little old lady in either West Virginia or Pennsylvania that opened her door, and she was a little old granny clampett redneck hillbilly. Opened the door, this thing was causing the dogs to raise a ruckus. It's standing there, and she lets it have it with a double-barreled shotgun from point-blank range. And then said it disappeared in a flash of light. I got there thinking, I was like, it's dark outside. You open the door and let it rip with a double-barreled shotgun, the muzzle flash is going to be blinding. You let that go for a few seconds, you're going to be more or less blind. That flash of light she saw could have been her own muzzle flash, especially your older double-barrel shotguns, because they looked and sounded like a cannon when they went off. And by the time her vision clears, whatever she shot's not there anymore. Well, if it's not laying 5 foot in front of you, it might have just ran off while her vision was. Yeah. And something, everybody talks about, how big and muscular they are. Their muscle tissue could be 2 or 3 times denser than ours. If she's firing birdshot or buckshot, it might have, I ain't going to say bounced off, but it may not have made it through. Real thick matted hair and muscle and stuff. And like you said, as fast as they are, 2 or 3 steps to one side or the other, and it's gone. And I've never really heard any other stories of them disappearing in a flash of light, or those are usually the exceptions, not the rule. I haven't heard a whole lot of that, or appearing inside a house or anything like that. Have you?
Not from anybody here locally. I've talked to a few people that from Illinois and up in Wyoming that had some that appeared on them. I don't know.
Well, and I've got a video on my trail cam. I know there's been several stories I've heard where he walked behind a tree and he never come out. Have you heard any like that? Well, I got a deer on the trail cam, and what it does, it walks behind the tree. And for a good 5 seconds, I can't see this deer. I'm like, well, where did this deer go? And what it was, it had turned, it was going this way behind the tree. Well, when it got behind the tree, it turned this way. And it was just walking in a perfect straight line right behind that tree. And until it got about 10 yards out from it, then you could see it again. Well, Sasquatch, everybody talks about, the prints you find walk a tightrope, one print right in front of the other. Instead of side by side, or they're all. Well, if they went behind the tree and then turned and took off walking that tightrope, there's your disappearing Sasquatch. Or we've heard stories of them dropping down and belly crawling. If there's high enough weeds like there is in that field out there where I got.
I was fixing to bring up, a friend of mine saw one that it was walking at an angle kind of away from him, but it got to a tree, and like you said there, it disappeared. And he actually got up and kind of went towards the tree and was looking around. And what had happened, he called it spider crawl. It went away with that tree to where it was probably 20 or 30 yards, and then it was spider crawling to the right. And when it got far enough away, it jumped up and took off. So that's why it disappeared behind the tree. It was walking with the tree, and then instantly was down and called a spider crawl. It was moving sideways. Yeah.
I know Jeremiah Fountain first suggested that to me, the whole, getting behind the tree and then just even walking backwards behind the tree, keeping the tree between them and whoever's looking at them. And depending on how thick your foliage and stuff is, well, 10 foot behind them, there's another tree. 10 foot, another tree. If you blink, you miss it.
Yep.
Especially, most sightings occur in pretty thick woods, poor lighting, usually either right before or after dark. So you can't see that good to begin with. And personally, to me, the whole... What's that?
I said by that time it's dusty dark and it's kind of hazy in the trees.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to see anything when it's moving. Hey, brother. It's in the back of the van there. Oh, all right. I got it in, but it come right back out. A friend of mine wanted his AC deal back to put Freon in his vehicle. It's hot around here.
Oh, yeah. We finally got some rain that cooled off here there for about a week. It was 95 with 85% of humidity or heat index, or it felt 105, 110. About like that picture I put on the Facebook, it's hot when even the dog starts melting. And another thing, the classic saying that... Go ahead.
She's getting old and wants in the house all the time when it gets hot.
We've been keeping both Sivas inside.
How does Sasquatch deal with the heat like this? I know the young can probably take it, and the muscled and juvenile, but they got to be old Sasquatches out there, because I've heard of the gray 10 of them. It's got to be rougher on them than it is the rest of them. So, what's your opinion on how they stay cool?
Well, personally, I just put this on my group there at Facebook the other day. I believe when it gets real hot, they go underground. Because I've noticed this happens the hottest part of the summer. It seems like activity kind of slacks off. You don't see or hear as much. You'll still hear or see something every now and then, but it's like they slow way down. Well, I think especially during the daytime, they're either underground or, like I said, they might even use, I believe they're opportunists, they might even use old abandoned, like you said, caves, mine shafts, old abandoned barns and houses out in the wilderness. any place you can find a shade spot, get in it and hunker down, wait for the sun to go down.
Right.
Before they start moving around. And I'm a big fan of the subterranean thing. I believe they use caves and mines and stuff a lot anyway.
Right. Yeah. In the back. It should be. I may have to go find that for him.
That's fine.
All right. I'll
If
be
you
right
want
back.
I was going to say, while you do that, I'm going to try to throw that video up here. I was showing you, let the people watching look at it and see if they see anything.
All right. That's a good plan.
All right. You probably can't see it real well on here because it's small. But this is the last live video I did. If you watch at the beginning and first couple minutes, another viewer pointed out in the upper right-hand corner, it looks like there's something standing and ducking down and behind a tree. Wendell watched it earlier and said he saw it as well. It's dark colored and looks like a head bobbing up and down watching me. And I was hearing whistles while I was around that bedding or nest. I never did. I smelled an odd smell, but I never did see anything. Wendell estimated it was about 50 foot from me. I'll just let it play there for a minute, let everybody look while Wendell's doing his thing. I think it's causing a little bit of feedback where I'm talking in that video. I got him playing for him there, and I try to show him where you were and what you was talking about. Of course, we all know I'm not the most tech-savvy person in the world. There's probably a better way to do this. I made it a little bigger. Wonder. No, that didn't do it.
Got us back.
There we go. What's that? I was trying to see if I could find it.
Now the video's back.
Yeah, I was messing around with a different screen. Looks like that's the only way it's going to let us put it up there. Anyway.
Yeah.
I was trying to show him what we was looking at earlier. There's probably some way to make that bigger, and I just don't know how to do it. There we go. Anybody wants to see it can always go to my page or my YouTube.
Right. Go on there, and you can blow it up then on your, once you hit enlarge on your regular screen.
Yeah.
But you can see the top of the dark shaped head moving back like it does around.
Like I said, I've heard whistles out there, and like you said, bears don't whistle, so.
So that's the only two things it could be. Being that tall, it's anywhere from 5.5 to 7 foot, depending on how much them trees are there. Mm-hmm. So tall, so it's either a bear or it's a Sasquatch. Or for some crazy reason, somebody out there in a ghillie suit, but it's too hot to be out there doing that kind of stuff and everything. So it pretty much leads it down narrows because you heard the whistling. It's a Sasquatch.
Yeah.
And you're pretty close to it when you get down that close.
Yeah. Like I said, that's kind of disturbs you to think it was that close to me and I had no idea. maybe I need to learn to shut up more often when I'm out there and listen a little bit closer. And there's been people trying to convince me,
the movements around.
I was going to say, there's a couple people trying to convince me, we see them in your videos. They come and listen to you pray. And I don't know if Bigfoot's listening to me pray or not. Which, if he is, he's more than welcome. I mean,
awesome.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, if it does him some good, I'm happy for him.
Amen. Everybody needs to hear some good praying.
I don't know how good my praying is, but
the majority of them is just curious and they want to know what's going on and want to know where you're at and they want to watch and if any way possible they'll avoid you. Sometimes that startles you when they take off or something like that, but
that would be the perfect example right there. I was going to say that's a perfect example. If it wanted to hurt me, it was that close and I was clueless. So,
yeah,
if it had wanted me, it could have got me easy.
Yep. Now, certain areas that, like the Appalachian Trail, where people has disappeared, or like here in Arkansas at Devil's Den, I don't recommend going around anywhere without something that, at least, like you said, a billy club, a stick or something, that's sharp. Preferably, I would carry some kind of firearm when you're out by yourself anyway, but that's just me. But anything can go wrong, so at least have something that you can fend something off with, like a walking cane, a stick, something like that.
Well, I've got my tree knocker, and hang on a second here. See if I can find it. I'll show it to you. How did I lose something that big? I guess I could start carrying my Arkansaw toothpick with me.
There you go. I got one of them. Yep.
I caught that term from
several people say if Sasquatch sees anything like that or a gun or anything, they'll definitely avoid you and leave you alone. You don't get any sighting. But I have to disagree with that because I've carried all of that and walked right in on them like you have, where they took off and running. And it don't seem to have made them any more aggressive. So I can't tell for sure if they knew what I had or not. But I definitely was carrying a pistol and everything, and it didn't seem to phase them one way. So.
Yeah.
And like I said, there's a lot of stuff out there other than Bigfoot that you can run into. You might even run into another hiker that's going to mean you harm. So I would definitely have something like that with me.
Well, like the other day we was talking, I always say I depend on my faith. I call it bulletproof faith. Keep me safe from anything. But on a more serious note, like I was talking, I believe that may be why I don't encounter the other stuff that's out there, the supernatural, the paranormal. Like I said, it ain't nothing I'm doing. It's the faith and the man I've got it in, Jesus, walking right next to me, and I can almost picture him being like, he's one of mine. He's with me. You back up. And they do.
Definitely.
They don't have any choice. Because demons flee where Jesus walks. So, and like the good book says, if God be with you, then what can stand against you?
Nothing. He'll build a hedge of protection around you.
Yeah. The blood of Jesus or a hedge of protection. And like I said, I'm a big follower of David Pilates. You know, like he's talking the missing 411, which I don't believe Sasquatch has a thing to do with. I really don't. Not the biggest majority of it anyway. We got feedback from somewhere, and I can't figure out where it's coming from. Have you got something playing in the background?
No, I got a fan running.
I do too. I keep hearing somebody talk when neither one of us is. I've shut all my other windows. I don't know what it could be. Huh. That's kind of odd. But no, like you said, a hedge of protection, the blood of Jesus, and that might be the only reason I'm still sitting here talking to you now. But like I said, it ain't nothing I do. I don't claim to be some big, bad, brave Superman that Bigfoot runs when he sees me coming. I do like to think if you're a good enough Christian and you live right, the devil will cross the street to get out of your way.
Yep.
But
I've been
go ahead.
Out with my group when we had scream at us. It didn't matter what you had. That give you a willy feeling when it's 75, 80 feet, something like 50 yards, something like that away from you, and scream one of them Bigfoot. That'll make the hair on the back of your neck stand up.
Oh, yeah. It's like a day I heard what I described you sounding like a cross between a purr and a growl, and then I just saw a real quick flash of movement in the trees. Yeah, I mean, I got faith in everything, but I also believe tempt not your maker. It's time to go. It's time to get out of here. I don't know what that was, and I'm not sticking around to find out. Which, it could have been nothing. I mean, that could have been a natural explanation for that. I might have overreacted. Then again, maybe I didn't. But, like I said, that makes at least 2 or 3 occasions where if they wanted to hurt me, they would have. But back to the David Pilates thing, you know, I don't believe that an 8 to 10 foot tall, 1,000+ pound creature can run up and snatch somebody almost within sight of other people, and nobody sees or hears anything, and they never find anything. You'd find clothes, their possession, something somewhere, and a lot of times they never do.
Huh. Sounds like somebody's talking in the background, but they ain't.
That's what I was hearing earlier. I can't figure out what it is. There ain't nobody else on here with us. We got a couple of viewers on Facebook or YouTube. I thought it was just feedback or something, but which it might be. If the viewers are watching and they let us know if they can hear it. Yeah. I was going to say, whoever's watching us there, if they can let us know if they hear it, or if it's just on our end.
It stopped now.
Yeah, it'll stop and then it'll start back up. Which it's the internet, who knows? I mean.
Yeah.
Now, I'll tell you something else that I encountered when you was talking about giving you the heebie-jeebies. I told you about the time I felt like something was out there with me that I couldn't see. And I even used the old Indian trick when I was backing out of there. I was using that as a mirror and watching the reflection in the blade over my shoulder to see if I could see anything behind me. And,
Right.
and I never could see it.
We do that a lot when we're walking in or walking out. We have a camera facing back on the whoever's at the rear. And we've caught movement and everything several times that way.
Yeah. Well, I've never done the backwards facing camera, mostly because I'm by myself. I'm the cameraman, the tech man, the audio man, the whatever man, I'm it. But now I did have one afternoon I'll never forget. Yeah. I'll never forget. I no sooner cleared the tree line back up into the field, headed up past the pond towards the barn and the house. And it'd been one of them days I hadn't seen nothing, hadn't heard nothing the whole time I was out there. I no sooner cleared the tree line, maybe 20 feet past it. That is feedback. I can hear my own voice now. Okay, that makes me feel a little bit better. Like I said, I get about 20 feet past the tree line, and I just hear. I just stopped in my tracks, and I was like, did I even want to turn around and look? I kind of slowly, didn't see nothing, didn't hear nothing anymore, but I kind of got the feeling there was something right there, just standing there back there watching me, and it just let me know, hey, I was here the whole time, you never knew it.
Yep. And a lot of times they're like that. They're just hugged up to a tree, and if you don't look for a bump out on the tree, you'll never notice them because that's the only thing they got out, either a hand or the side of their head where they're looking around the tree.
Well, I've got several hits on my trail cameras. You've probably seen some of them. Water you get looks like maybe the arm and the elbow or shoulder coming around the tree, or like you said, half a head leaning. And I had one here recently where it looks like something's behind it, just taking the whole tree and doing this number, moving, because the camera's sitting there doing that number, literally going from side to side. And this is in broad daylight. This is a daylight shot. There ain't no wind, none of the grass or nothing's moving. I can't see a bug or anything else in front of the camera that would cause the camera to activate to begin with. But the whole time the camera's filming, something is moving, either it and or the tree it's attached to from behind. And I thought that was peculiar. And then I've got 2 or 3 nighttime ones where I was just going to say, in the nighttime ones, ain't nothing moving. The camera's not moving. I can't see as much as a twig on a tree or a blade of grass, no wind or nothing. Perfectly still, and something's setting the camera off.
We've had a couple at night that the camera would move, and it was in the late fall season, and the trees that it was on was probably 6-8 inches around, big coffee can tree, so it'd take quite a bit to shake at. Mm-hmm. But you could see the smoke fog coming from behind the camera, and it's waving. You can see everything moving in front of it. Well, what's making it move? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it's like the one I put up with all the eye shine in it. Did you see that?
Yeah.
If you look off to the right, it looks like something's, to me, it looks like something's casting a pretty good sized shadow out in front of the camera. But it's like it's standing just enough off to the side. You can see the shadow, but you can't see what's casting. And the shadow ain't there in the other shots, so it makes you wonder just how intelligent they really are. If the camera's right there, if they can get right here and not come another 1/4 of an inch where the camera would get them. I mean, that's pretty darn smart. And some people think it's because they can see the beam.
I'm a firm believer that they're really intelligent, and like I said, they know their surroundings, and they have a superior sense of smell to us. So that's a lot of it. They're checking.
Yeah.
If it ain't the human scent that's on it, it's the plastic scent. That's why
Mm-hmm.
we went to when we put out any cameras, we spray them down with our. We make our own scent that we can spray it down. That way, it gets rid of the human scent, just like scent away or anything that you're using while you're
Yeah.
deer hunting. Well, your scent's on all that ground, everything, and we don't store the cameras or anything around people. They're outside all the time in a little shelf that we put up when we store them here.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say I thought about using doe scent, but then again, on the cameras, I've got a couple big bucks around here. I'm not sure I want to use doe scent. I've seen how that can go wrong.
No, you want to use something like either the apple scent or forest scent or acorn woodland. That's what we call
Mm-hmm.
ours, woodland. But you can some of them call theirs dirt. That's a good one. I forget what brand it is, but it's dirt. I think it's Tinker's dirt scent. But anyway, that's a good one to use too.
Yeah, I might have to look into that.
And back to disguising your cameras and stuff. Uh, we use the smaller plastic chocolate milk uh, containers for the like recorders. So
Mm-hmm.
we put bark on that, and then on regular cameras, we actually uh, put that bark and everything on it with adhesive. So
Well, what I usually do, I'll put mine, and that's why I get so many shots of tree limbs moving. If there's a tree with a bunch of limbs on it, I'll actually put it back behind limbs. That way the camera ain't sitting right out on the front of the tree in plain view. The limbs are actually camouflaged.
right.
Now, like I said, that don't do any good for the scent, but as far as seeing it, and it might even keep them from seeing the beam. I don't
Right.
know. I thought about trying a.
It helps.
Yeah. Have you seen the little fake rocks they got now that people will put like security cameras in around their houses? I think they're either plastic or styrofoam
Yeah.
or something. Yeah. You just open them up and set the camera down inside it and shut it, and it looks like a rock sitting there. Well, be my luck, the Sasquatch will pick the rock up, pack it off somewhere, take my camera with it. Which, if they're plastic, you'd run into the same problem as the cameras. They probably take one whiff of it and know that ain't a regular rock, but
I'll have to check into it. I was trying to think if they had any the older type just flash cameras that
mm-hmm.
was triggered. You know, like you put a trip wire and if something walked through it and
Yeah.
tripped that wire, it would take a picture. So I bet that'd be the way to go. You might only get one picture, but it'd be a good picture because it ain't gonna be seeing
Yeah.
the infrared or nothing, and it'd be close
Yeah.
enough so you can set your trip wire close enough.
Speaking of pictures, have you seen the
I'll have
latest hot picture going around of the one that looks kind of like a chimpanzee? People are claiming it's from a cellular trail cam. I've seen it in 3 or 4 groups.
Yeah, it's kind of sitting in a field,
Yeah.
brush or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah, I seen that.
What'd you think about that one?
I don't. Someone was saying it was a bear. That ain't no bear. I'm
I've
not
heard.
sure if it's from what area it's from. It definitely looks like a monkey of some type or a smaller juvenile Sasquatch, but
And I've heard
I don't know.
rumors that
It's all in where it was taken.
supposedly a reliable source is claiming it's a stuffed animal. I'm not saying it is,
There's
but
no way to tell for sure.
no. And like I said, the thing that kind of bugs you, they don't have a before or after picture. If it's a trail cam, you got to have even if you got it on still shot. If it was a living creature, depending on how fast it's moving, it ought to set it off and take more than one shot, I would think. And of course, it depends on what settings you got your camera set on too.
Yeah.
I guess it's like anything else, the truth will come out eventually. Because there's one thing about the Bigfoot world, they'll tear something apart if they find out it's fake. The Bigfoot world can be a little bit on the bloodthirsty side when it comes to stuff like that.
Yeah, it's unfortunate with everything. I hate to say it, but to ever completely document it, that I think they'll have to find a corpse or a body or something. It's bad to say that without as much evidence as been out there. Is normally, I mean, circumstantial evidence is there. They've had enough to convict somebody in a court,
Oh,
but
yeah.
you ain't gonna convict somebody on a big.
Well, you're not going to convince the mainstream scientific community. And I use quotation marks as I think you know about what I think about how I think about them. I mean, like you said,
Right.
it's a body or bust for them. And personally, I don't think a single one of them deserved to die just to satisfy their curiosity. That's just I'm not going to be the trigger man
I
for
don't
them.
either. The only way I would is, like I said, and we've looked for something like this, is one that's, uh, say, a man eater or breaking into people's houses and stuff like that. Just
Yeah,
like something that would put somebody on death row, uh, that would be the only way I would say one would need to be taken. But,
yeah. Well, just like with a mean dog or a bear or mountain lion or anything else, yeah. If
right.
they go aggressive, then you ain't got much choice. And of course, we've all heard the rumors that there's government hunt kill squads or whatever that when one of them crosses a line like that, they step in and do what has to be done. Obviously,
Yes.
I can neither confirm nor deny that that actually happens. It wouldn't surprise me.
I've got some friends that say that's what they do, but I can't confirm or deny. I never seen any proof. So,
Well, it's
so
kind of like
still
that's how our government works. They require proof from
up in the
everybody
air.
else. The government. That's how it works. They require proof for everything from everybody else for everything else, but we're not supposed to ask them for proof of anything. It's kind of a double standard they operate with there.
Yeah, supposed to
Uh,
do as they say, not as they do.
Yeah, I was going to say I make an important distinction here. When I say government, I mean government. When I say military, I mean military. I've got all the respect in the world for our military. But the military and the government's two different things. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah,
And now, if somebody from the military come forward and told me,
unfortunately,
I've been on a hunt kill squad for 20 years. I can't show you or tell you what I done, but I did it. I'd come closer to believing that than some guy in a suit. Oh yeah, we sent a team out to Minnesota. Blah blah blah. Show me the paper trail.
well, that first one, I've actually had them tell me that, and I would trust uh, this, especially this one, if I going in with my life, I mean, but I can't prove it. So,
Yeah.
but all I can say, he's been in some hairy places. If everything he says, I wish I could repeat it, but
I
he's in the same
understand.
boat. He can't repeat nothing that he said.
Yeah. And I understand that. When I first started doing this, I never understood the researchers that were like, well, I've talked to witnesses that know where there's a body. I know people that got the clearest pictures you ever want to see, but we can't share them. They ask us not to. Now, when I first started, I was like, well, if you got that kind of evidence, that kind of proof, who cares who you make mad? Do it. Blow it wide open. Just blow the top off everything and do it. But now I'm in the same boat. I've had a couple people come to me and tell me this, that, and the other. Take it to the grave with you, you know? So, after a little bit, I finally understand where those people are coming from when they say, I can't tell you everything I know. Because I know you listen to Sasquatch Chronicles all the time, and Wes says it. The things I hear off the air would blow your mind. And now I finally know where he's coming from with that.
Yeah.
Because I've got one in particular, like I said, it's a take it to the grave witchy story. And all I can say is it's a game changer. Honest to God, and I believe the guy, if what he said was so, it would have changed everything. But it was 30 going on 40 years ago, and too late to do anything about it now, but
it's the cover up on stuff is just amazing because just off the Bigfoot subject, unless these were Bigfoot, the red-haired giants that was in that one cave out there, I've been following the different links and studies and people of that time, and that were actual people and their documentation of what they saw and what they found. And there's no reason for them to lie then. I don't know, that's getting close to 70, 80 years ago. There wasn't no reason for them to lie then, but all that evidence disappeared. So,
yeah, the Lubbock Cave, Lubbock, Texas. Lubbock, something like that.
Yeah.
And they've been found all over North America. That ain't the only time they found the giant skeletons. Hang on a second. You talk about back then, people didn't make stuff like that up and stuff. Let me show you something here.
The Toltec mound, they found skeletons that was 9 foot tall.
Can you see it?
The Historical Bigfoot, 2nd edition.
What this is, and I'll give you an idea of what size of book it is. I ain't got to crack the cover on this one yet. It's 1,000+ pages. And what it is,
wow,
it's all newspaper reports, clippings, and reports from before 1958, the Patterson film, from newspapers, magazines, television channels. Back when the news actually researched and investigated stuff, and like you said, they made sure about something before they reported it. So, like I said, hey, that might take me a while.
Just a few
I
days.
saw that online. I had to get it. But to your point, back then, when something got reported in a newspaper, you know they'd taken the time to go out and check into it and verify it, investigate the witnesses. Hey, is this guy trustworthy, or is he the type that's going to blow smoke up you know what, make up tall tales? Back then, it's from the 1700s, like I said, clear up to 1958. Back in the 1700s, you didn't go around making up stories about wild men and Bigfoot and anything else, like you said. You just didn't do it. They didn't do it. I'm reading Tribal Bigfoot by David Pilates right now. I got to finish it before I start. I can't wait to start that book. I can't wait to crack the cover on that.
That looks like an interesting read right there.
Yeah. Like I said, I don't think I've ever seen another book on this subject, Sasquatch or Bigfoot, 1,000+ pages. And that's the second edition. I'm gonna have to see if I can. I'm gonna have to see if I can't find the first volume. If there's another one out there as big as that one, unless that's just like an updated, revised, or whatever. But either way, like you said, that's a whole. You talk about all the proof. That's a whole lot of proof right there.
Yeah.
I mean, there ain't too many books that are 1,000 pages thick. Period. Regardless of what the top. Most history books ain't that thick. And it just ties into what you was talking about. There's the official history, and then there's what really happened.
Yeah.
And it correlates with,
if you want to find out about it,
go ahead.
just do a little digging, and all the pieces will fit in together, and you're like, yeah, something's missing here, and somebody had to take the main part of the evidence away, and it's always leads back to the government that's done it and took it away. So.
Yeah. Well, I had a friend.
Yeah, that's a debate.
I had a friend whose father recently took a vacation up to South Dakota, Mount Rushmore. And if you remember the movie National Secret with Nicolas Cage, he took the tour. Yeah. Well, he took the tour of Mount Rushmore, and they took him in the first room, the vaults where they've got the original Declaration of Independence and Constitution and all that under lock and key under Mount Rushmore. Now, that's the part that's open to the public. It's got stuff like that in it. He said you could tell this thing went on for a long time, ways back behind in there was more. He said if they got something as important as the original Constitution laying out where you can see it, what's in them back rooms? And the minute he said that, I was like, have you ever seen National Secret with Nicolas Cage? He's like, no. I was like, well, go watch it. That's what's in the back rooms. And I honestly believe that. There's the Smithsonian. There's probably stuff in the Smithsonian that would blow our minds. Buried in a box in the basement somewhere. Supposedly, that's where the red-headed skeletons went. They took them to the Smithsonian. Nobody ever saw them again.
Yep.
And that all ties in, we talk about the Native Americans a lot. The same thing, and I got in a big-time argument with another researcher about this. He was like, you can't take everything a Native American says as gospel. I was like, no, but you got to think, their society, their entire way of life, from pretty much the minute they woke up in the morning to the minute they laid their head back down, was based around survival. Everything they did, everything about their way of life was survival. Hunting, fishing, gathering, crafting, everything.
Prepare for that day, next day, or the next week.
Well, he misunderstood me. He's like, no, they had festivals and rituals and ceremonies to have a good time and play games and stuff. I was like, yeah, but if you actually check into it, even their festivals and ceremonies and games and stuff usually focused around a practical skill that they would use in everyday life. They'd play a game and have a good time with it and get up the next day and use it for work. The same skill they were using as a game the night before. I just couldn't make my point, that they didn't have time to make stuff up. Just like, you see pictures of Sasquatches on their cave drawings and in their totem poles and stuff. Well, if you look next to it, everything else they drew on that wall was a real animal. Bears, wolves, birds, fish, deer. Same thing with the totem pole. All your other animals, faces you see in totem poles are real animals. So why would there be one right in the middle of them that they just made up out of the blue? Wouldn't it make more sense that the Sasquatch is just as real as the bear and the deer and the eagle and everything else? And that's why he's in there with them? I mean, it makes sense to me anyway. That's just my version of common sense. And the Native Americans had kind of a code, like the ultimate sin to them was a lie. Your word was everything. A lie on somebody was worse than murder, from what I understand, for most tribes. The way I understood it.
Yep.
It's too bad we can't go back to that. It's another case of the Native American had it figured out, and then the white man come along.
You used to be able to, everything you purchased or whatever at the bank or anywhere, the handshake was all that was necessary.
Oh, yeah.
Not no more. Even if you got a contract, there's all kinds of loopholes where you get out of this and that. And
well, I always heard an expression, my
what they say.
My mom and Papa, Mama, and them all used it, and you don't hear it anymore. Said, if your word's no good, you're no good. You ever heard that? Yep. You don't hear that anymore.
No. Everything's a gray subject. It used to be white and black. Now it's all.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's what kind of got aggravated about me, the post I made about the fires out west. I was like, we got the technology. They've been able to seed clouds and make it rain since the 50s or 60s. That's not nothing new. But they complain, we don't have the money and the funds and the resources to fight these forest fires. Yet you've got the money and the funds and the resources to try to discover the 58th gender or build another rehab clinic or a bypass to nowhere or some other just nonsense. But you ain't got the money and the funds and the resources to keep your state from burning down. And then you got the poor people that live there that are caught in it, not to mention the animals that have to suffer because the so-called powers that be got their heads up their tail ends and ain't got their priorities in order.
Yeah, it's a sad state anymore.
Yeah. Because, you can watch films from back in the 60s and 70s where they do exactly what I was talking about. You can watch it fly over and drop salt in the clouds, and it would iodize the clouds and make it start raining. You use it to put forest fires out.
Oh, yeah.
In the same areas that are on fire right now. And like I said, if they could do it in the 60s and 70s, why can't we do it now? I'm getting up on my soapbox, but we kind of got off on a tangent there. Now, back to what we was talking about, the other stuff people are running into. I was going to mention some of the other things that could very well be a physical. People see these mysterious black panthers, but according to Fish and Wildlife and Conservation, there's no black panthers in North America. But we both know better.
Yeah.
I'm sure you all have them there in Arkansas, reports of them.
Oh, yeah, we get reports all around of them. Most of the time, the game fish just says it's a black mountain lion. So, they still officially, there's no black panther. And I'm like, well, if it's a black cat, it's the panther to me. I don't.
Well, if you put a picture of a panther and a mountain lion side by side, they don't even really look alike. The mountain lion's got a shorter tail, bigger head, thicker, where the panther's sleeker and got the long tail, kind of narrow head and face. I was like, they don't even look alike. Hey, do y'all get any reports of the thunderbirds out there?
Only place that we've had any is back over by Devil's Den State Park, which that's almost in Oklahoma. So they're probably the same ones coming out of Oklahoma making a big circle. But yeah, there've been a few reports over in that area.
They've always fascinated me. They'd probably be a close second behind Sasquatch for me. And I've seen one time in particular, I saw a couple of extremely large birds flying in front of the sun. And they was out over a ridge clear on the other side of a valley. And I could make out the wings and the tails and basic details. Not a lot of fine detail, but I could tell. And a buzzard or a hawk or something would be a speck at that distance. And I could actually make out these things' outlines. There's two of them. And I had another friend, he was out late one night crossing an old metal, what they call trestle bridge, about a lane and a half wide, out in the middle of absolute nowhere. And he said the moon was out. He said, I'm crossing this bridge. He said, all of a sudden something passes over the car, blocks the moon out. He said, I looked up and here's this bird thing, and he said it was gliding, had its wings outstretched. He said it was every bit as wide as my car, and he had like a mid-80s model Trans Am. He had his T-tops out. He said it was as wide as my car, and he said I can't swear that wingtip to wingtip it wasn't as wide as that bridge I was crossing. He said, and it just banked and sailed upstream, up the river, went around a bend, and I lost it in the trees. He said, I ain't never seen a bird that big in my life. And I asked him, I said, oh, you think it was a hawk or owl? Or he's like, no, it was 3 or 4 times bigger than any hawk or owl I've ever seen. I had another here recently, and this was a guy shocked me because he's the last person in the world. He goes to church, and he's just a no-nonsense older guy in his late 50s, military veteran. Him and the guy was out fishing along the county line, and he said, we saw 2 birds fly over the lake, over the treetops. He said, I swear to you, they look just like the pterodactyls do in the science books, the dinosaur, flying dinosaur. He said, it looked just like them. He said, you couldn't have took a picture of one, thrown it up in the sky. He said, they wasn't even flying that high. Like I said, he'd have been the last person on earth I would expect him to tell me something like that. Because he always kind of chuckles when I bring up Sasquatch. And he comes back telling me he saw dinosaurs. Yeah. And I'm not laughing at him. I just find that ironic. You know, you laugh at me about Sasquatch and then you see dinosaurs. And he said he had a buddy with him, saw him. They both saw him broad daylight. Like I said, that was all them. And
wow.
I ain't too much into the flying humanoids because that gets back off into what we was talking about, the supernatural Mothman or Jersey Devil and all that. Y'all have any lake monsters or river monsters out in Arkansas?
Yeah. Up in Batesville, they have a version of the Loch Ness Monster up there. See if I can come up. I forgot his name right now when you put me on the spot.
I was just trying to run through a list of the more, just like Sasquatch, I believe they could be a flesh and blood creature that just ain't been discovered yet or been discovered and thought they were extinct. And stuff like that I can buy into, but now, what about the black dogs or black chucks or anything like that? You ever heard of those? Or just giant black dogs, supposedly?
Yeah, but it's not it's the Ozark Howlers is what I've heard them called. it's basically, like you said, a giant black dog, or it don't really look like a wolf. It looks more like a hyena, what it looks like, but they're huge, around 300 to 400 pounds, and they run all over northern Arkansas and southern Missouri.
Huh.
And some people have put them together at the same time as Bigfoot been in the area, so there's a little that they're pets or something like that. But they've been all over the northwest Arkansas, southern Missouri, and they're called the Ozark Howlers.
I think I saw an episode of Monster Quest or something. Wasn't there one guy that was supposed to got a pretty good picture of one peeking around a tree at him or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I saw that.
It's the White
I was
River
reading,
Monster is the Loch Ness Monster that's up here. Same, basically. A lot of people report it to be like 12 to 14 feet long and about 3 feet wide. So that's something big, whatever's in the river there.
Yeah. Anybody got any theories on what it might be, or?
Well, several of them have said that it might be a large sturgeon that has come up from the Mississippi River and down through that way, but it's only speculation.
Yeah. I got kind of an odd look because maybe I've got it backwards. I always pictured sturgeons being further north, not south. I thought sturgeon were up around Michigan and Minnesota, and which, like you said, anything's possible.
They have to come. Yeah.
Now, the first thing popped in my head was alligator gar.
Yeah, that. But it's if it's one of them, it's would be a record. I mean, they get maybe 6, 8, 10 feet long, but not when you're getting them in the 12 foot and 3 foot wide across the back.
Yeah.
That's if it's one of them, it's huge.
Yeah.
And it's been sighted there since 60s. So.
Mm-hmm. I think I've seen an episode or read a book or something with it in it too. The White River Monster, that name kind of rang a bell in my head when you named it there. I was going to say, though, as far as size, there's a condition in humans called giganticism. And that's where you get the occasional guy that's 8'2" or whatever, whereas everybody else tops out around 7 foot. And every now and then you hear about, the bear that's 3 times bigger than. And fish and reptiles grow until they die, so. I mean, like you said, there's been alligators 10 foot long caught, so.
Yeah.
It ain't outside the realm of possibility. If there's 10 foot ones, they could be a 12 foot one, yeah. I'm sure y'all have the giant catfish stories just like we do.
Yeah.
My uncle runs a towing service and has since I think he's 76, 78 years old, something like that. And he tells a story about up around the Kentucky Bridge. They had a car go off a bridge up there somewhere in the Kentucky River with the guy still in it. And they brought the dive team in to go down and get the body out of the car or find the body. So they took, the tow cable down with them. So they hadn't been down no time till the divers come back up, climb back in the boat, and said, "You'll never find that man's body." And they looked at him and said, "Well, why not? Go back down there and, we need to find it." The diver's like, "We're not going back down there because there's catfish down there big enough to swallow a man whole." And he said they got back in the boat and said, "Take us back to the dock. We're not getting back in the water." I'll never forget that. And that's coming from a source, as I said, that's from my own uncle. And he's not the type of guy to make something like that up either. Because he comes from that generation. You just didn't joke about people dying and stuff. And why you didn't go get the bodies. He said they pretty much handed him the tow cable back. If they want that body, they can go down there and get it themselves. And best of my knowledge, nobody ever did. And I've seen catfish they've taken out of the Ohio River up north here that weigh 100 plus pounds. I've seen pictures of them. And I don't know if they can swallow a man whole, but they can definitely swallow his arm up to their shoulder, no problem in their mouths. You can stick your head in their mouth. And I got a pretty good sized head on me. This is going to sound silly, but I read about it in one of Lauren Coleman's books years ago, and it's always stuck with me. Because right here in my county, according to the BFRO, or maybe it was another site I saw, there was a report of a phantom kangaroo. Y'all got any of those? Phantom kangaroo.
No, I never.
Like I said, Lauren Coleman's got them in one of his books. The report here in our county basically
had
actual kangaroos.
Lions?
No,
lions running around here. Yeah.
Lions, L-I-O-N-S.
Yeah, L-O-I-N-S.
Yeah.
We had a safari park here, and all the cages got open one evening, and all of his lions got out. So about a month around here, people were seeing the actual lions running around, and they ended up having to shoot them all, or hopefully they shot them all. There hadn't been no more reports.
Well, they had something similar happen up in Ohio, not far north of us. They had a guy running exotic game illegal. So exotic. And when they went in to get him, he just let everything go. Trying to, I guess, get rid of the evidence. Not to, the cops couldn't see the tigers and leopards, and I think he even had a freaking polar bear. And he had a couple monkeys and apes and stuff. And they caught some of them, but they said, like you said, some of them they didn't catch. So for all we know, Ohio, northern Kentucky, we could have tigers or monkeys running around up there now. This was years back. But if they didn't catch them, who's to say they ain't still around? Because you got to figure if he was breeding them and selling them,
Same way.
He had matching pairs more than likely. Well, if a matching pair got loose in the wild, they could reproduce.
Yep.
Of course, I like to give my friends that are Cincinnati Bengals fans, a hard time. Well, don't worry. If it was a man-eating tiger or lion, it'll starve to death in Ohio. They don't find that as funny as I do, but that's like right up in Lexington, Kentucky, back during when the pandemic was full swing. They had a bear sighting right in downtown Lexington, right by UK campus. And I joke, I'm a Louisville Cardinal fan. I joke with myself, well, don't worry, it's a man-eater. It'll starve to death. But they were sitting there reporting that, they was like, nobody knows how this bear got into downtown Lexington, and there's a railroad trestle right behind him, a train going past. I was like, I got a pretty good idea how he got in downtown Lexington. He probably crawled up in a boxcar, took him a nap, woke up in downtown Lexington. I'm trying to think. But no, Lauren Coleman, the phantom kangaroos, and the one that got reported right here in Harrison County back in the early 90s. This guy was driving down the road late at night, said this thing just hopped right out of the bushes right in front of him, took off hopping down the road in front of his truck. He said it's probably about 3 or 4 foot tall, looked like it had a tail. He said, for all the world to me, he said it looked like a kangaroo. So that was one of the weird stories here locally. I'm trying to think. We covered the birds, the fish, the snake. I guess y'all probably get giant snakes too. people let their boa constrictors or pythons loose, and they just keep, like I said, they grow till they die. We've had a couple of them around here. They found 14, 15, yeah. They found 14, 15-foot long pythons out in fields and stuff. All the cats or dogs start disappearing in the neighborhood. They get to looking, sure enough. And usually, the scary part is they usually find them up in somebody's crawl space under their house or something. And they got no idea they got a 15-foot snake living under their porch. They just don't understand why the dogs keep disappearing. I'm trying to think. There's something else real weird that got reported here in Harrison County. I want to see if you ever heard anything like it. Now, this is one of them that's out in left field. I don't know if you file it as paranormal or supernatural or what. Have you ever heard of like a time slip where somebody claims that they went somewhere? It was like they went backwards in time for just a short time, and then they come back to like modern day.
Tell me about it, but yeah, it ain't been nobody I've talked to one-on-one, but I mean, I've had people that phone me and tell me about it, but...
Well, I didn't talk to these guys in particular. I think I read about it. Might have been in an old edition of the local newspaper or something. I found it somewhere. And basically, these two guys went down in this valley. They said they noticed it was kind of foggy and everything. And they got looking around. They said the houses and stuff looked older style. The people standing out in the yards were dressed like the 1700s or 1800s or Quakers. They said it was like nobody paid any attention to us in our truck. And we noticed they had horses and buggies and stuff. And the buildings were, you know, like I said, looked like they from a different time. And he said, and it just kept, this fog just kind of moved in. And we come up out of the other side of that little valley, back up a hill, and everything's back to normal. He said, we turned around, went back, it was all gone. It was just a normal valley, no fog, no nothing. And they said they was down in there for a good 2 or 3 minutes driving through this little stretch. And they said it was like we drove back in time. And we were seeing what this area looked like 100 years ago or something. That was right here in Harrison County. And not even too far from my house, as the crow flies. I know the exact road they went down. They said it happened. I don't want to give too many details because it ain't my story to tell, but I don't know if the guys are still around or not. I'd love to talk to them if they were. And I've always wondered, going back to David Pilates, you know, the missing people, something like that could explain it. If they somehow stepped through one of these slips or holes or whatever you want to call it and ended up somewhere or somewhere else and just couldn't find their way back or something.
Possible. I've had someone tell me about one in southern Arkansas that happened in the 40s, and it was in a cornfield, and they did that, and a week later they come out on the other side of the cornfield, and he just thought it was just a few minutes, you know.
Did other people notice him missing, or?
Yeah, he'd been missing, and for that whole week.
And he just popped back up.
Like I said, just popped back up. Like I said, he just thought it'd been a few minutes.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Tops an hour.
What had
it been
passed in real time or whatever, a week, and he thought he'd only been gone 15 or 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And he popped out on the other side of the field just like if he'd really walked across. That's nuts.
Yeah. Yep.
I remember hearing one story from back in like the 70s or earlier. I read it or heard it somewhere. I think it was in Arkansas. You might have heard this. This guy was walking out across a field to go to a well to get some water for his family's farmhouse. And he didn't come back for a few minutes, so they went looking for him. And they said they could hear his voice hollering, "Help, they've got me, they've got me." But his voice was coming from above them, like up in the sky. They couldn't see him, but they could hear him. And this guy was never seen again. You know, if I want to say it was either Arkansas or Illinois.
I hadn't heard about it.
I've read so many books and stuff, I'll never be able to find it again, probably. But I think it was one of the old books I found, like a thrift store, like one of those old Fortune or whatever his name was that did Ripley's Believe It or Not. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Back in the 30s and 40s, one of the guys that really kind of started the whole crypto paranormal gathering them stories and stuff. His last name was Fortune or something like that. He wrote those books and he put some of the weirdest stories you'd ever, and swore up and down every last one of them was true, which 9 out of 10 people involved in them would be dead now if there's no way to know one way or the other. But there was one night that was real. What's that?
The kind of same thing was going on with the Manhattan Project. Have you ever looked into that? It was.
I remember watching.
Ship
yeah.
That,
they tried. They was experimenting with time travel, pretty much.
Yeah. Or time travel or interdimensional travel. Anyway, there was people that would materialize in the metal of the ship. Mm-hmm. Half of them there and half of them not. So.
Yeah, I've heard that. I remember that a couple other stories just stuck with me. There was one, and this come from way back in England, like early 1800s, talking about disappearing people. It was not a big-time noble, not like the royal family or anything, but he was like a lord or a baron or something like that. And he was out hunting with his buddies, and he had one of them big carriages, you know, the end of the day, they was too lazy to walk or ride on horseback back, so the rich guys would pile in their carriage, and their butler or whatever would drive them home. Well, supposedly he walked out of the inn where the hunting inn where him and his buddies had been staying. I was like, well, I'm going to get my carriage and go home. I'll see you guys later. And went and walked around the back of the carriage. That's the last time anybody ever saw him. He never come around the other side of the carriage. And his servants and stuff were, standing 10 feet away. One of them was on top of the carriage getting ready to drive. The other one's standing there holding the door open for him. And he just never comes around the other side of the carriage. I think that was one of them they tried to blame it on fairies. The fairies got him and took him off to wherever fairies take people. I'm not real familiar. I don't know a lot about fairies, but...
Hey, Nathan.
Yeah. There for a minute, another picture popped up down there at the bottom. It was you again. Looked like a screenshot of a campsite or something. Did you put that there?
Yeah, I was trying to get that White River Monster up, but that was a video of Frank McGuire telling about his encounter that we're going to go over and film this fall if he's able.
Yeah.
It wasn't the picture I thought it was.
That'd be interesting. I'm trying to think if there's any of the basic.
Share the picture.
I'll tell you what you might try. Can you send it to me in Messenger?
Yeah.
If you send it to me in Messenger, I might be able to share it. Like I did that in the mine a while ago.
Uh-huh.
It ain't come through yet. Did you send it yet? There it is. Alright, hang on just a second.
I don't know if it's got the comments down below the picture or not, but it does. It does on here. It tells about it, the wreck, the dates.
There it is. I don't think it's going to be big enough to see.
Show it.
Alright.
Uh-uh.
Well, let's try anyway.
Yeah.
Once again, there's probably a better way to do that, and I just ain't smart enough to do it. But,
yeah.
I'm trying to think if we covered all the natural cryptid creatures. Giant turtles, I think it was Minnesota, they got a giant turtle in a lake up there. Supposed to be as big as a Volkswagen.
Huh.
Y'all got any of them?
That's huge.
I took a picture of over in my... That I took a picture of over in my pond laying up under that moss. Give it a run for its money. Did you ever see that one?
Right. Yeah. That's pretty big.
Yeah, like I said, he was a pretty good sized fella himself.
I guess the biggest turtle I ever seen here come out of Greers Ferry Lake, and it was like 140 pounds. A little S10 truck, it fit just barely between the wheel wells, sideways, long ways. That was the biggest turtle I ever seen.
Well, I got you attachment. Let's see if I can.
I don't know if that'd do any better or not.
It's a little bit better. People might be able to look at it there for a minute. It's a little bit bigger anyway.
Yeah, but it ain't it ain't about the monster, I don't guess. It showed to be.
Oh well. That's right. Do y'all get any reports of the devil monkeys down there? The smaller, more like a regular monkey that supposedly swing around in the trees and stuff. I guess not quite as big as a Sasquatch, but they call them devil monkeys.
No, I hadn't had nobody report anything. The only difference, there's about 3 different sizes of Sasquatch here in Arkansas. The one that's down by the Boggy Creek is the more hunched over and only gets around 6 foot tall. That's got less hair and more mobile, like you're saying, would be able to get into trees and everything.
Yeah.
And then up into the northwest of Arkansas, you get the ones that look more, they're huge, but have shorter legs and actually look more like a gorilla, that do actually put their hands on the ground every once in a while to run. And here in central Arkansas and east, it's the ones that's taller and look more human.
Yeah. I just wondered, I've read a few reports of them. Which reminds me of another thing I was going to bring up when we was talking about supernatural and all that and staying away from it. The places, I know you said you had that one called Devil's something. Yeah. We got one here called Devil's Backbone that's got a bad reputation. And David Pilates talks about that all over the country. Places with hell or devil in the name tend to be associated with Bigfoot and other things.
And a lot of that is there's been something there, and bad things has happened or activity that scared people, and they give it that name in the hopes and interest that, hey, you'll stay away because it's got that name devil in it.
Yeah. Well, I know the place we got here, Devil's Back. Go ahead.
We have a place over here It's called Booger Hollow. And the reason it got that name, people hadn't associated Bigfoot with it, but until here recently. But they had something that would come up out of the grave that was big enough that it would run and it would scare the mules and horses and everything that was passing and make them run off. And a lot of people thought, well, it was a ghost or something. But tangible stuff was thrown at them, the people that would pass at night. And now in that area, they have several Bigfoot sightings been recorded there. So if you put two and two together, whatever was running out of that cemetery scaring the horses, most likely was Bigfoot even back then. This was in the 1890s and then 1900s.
Well, it's one of the trends back then, just like that book's talking about. A lot of those reports, they didn't call them Bigfoot or Sasquatch because nobody knew what a Bigfoot was back then. You got wild men, boogers, haints. I've even heard some, what they call them, watchamacollets or thingamajigs or everything but Bigfoot because nobody knew what a Bigfoot was. Well, yeah, we got devil's backbone here, and like I said, you won't catch me out there because I think there's a story literally from everything from Bigfoot to ghosts to devil worshippers to UFOs associated with it. And all of it put together is just enough to keep me, to me, it would keep anybody with any common sense away from it. Sounded to me like the last place on earth you'd want to be. I know one of my friends from the next county over, he told a story. His grandfather was coon hunting down in there. It's a fairly good-sized area. And he said there's one spot where there's a great big rock sticks up out of the ground. Ain't quite what you call a boulder, but it's a good-sized rock. Said the coon dogs run right up to this rock, started biting at it, breaking their teeth off on the rock, blood running down it. See, his grandfather told him the devil's sitting on that rock, and them dogs can see him. We can't. And they're trying to get at him. Like I said, if my grandpa had told me that, that'd been the last time you'd ever caught me anywhere near that place. Maybe even in the same county. But,
get out there.
Yeah. And I know, and it's kind of a funny story, there's a cave back in there on that area somewhere. A couple guys I played football with, I'm talking both of them 6 foot plus, 260 pound, 17, 18-year-old, just macho as it gets football players, Went out there with a bunch of buddies, found that cave, and I don't know what happened exactly. I wasn't there. But I'll tell you, to this day, you couldn't get either one of them back out there at gunpoint. You could put a gun to their head, they would not go back out there. And then there was another report. They said there's a bunch of them out there in the field. They said there was a bunch of guys out there in the field. I think there's some girls too. And there was big tall weeds, Said it was like something was running through the weeds around them, just out of sight of their campfire they had going, or bonfire, whatever it was. Said it was circling them real fast, just running in circles around them, but they couldn't see it. And eventually they got away and got out of there. Then I had a couple other friends, one of them's passed away since. They was in the CB club up here. One was called Crazy Lady, she's passed away. The other one was Psycho. Now Psycho was a biker. He had a CB and a car, but he was a biker too. And he lived up to his name. And he stood about 6'4", probably weighed about 265, nothing but muscle, worked in construction. And he was one of them guys, if the devil was out there, he wasn't afraid of him. So these two go out there one night in a car, and there's no graveyard or church right on the edge of it. He said they were sitting out there in the car, and he looked back out the back window at the graveyard gate. Now, she claims there was something sitting on top of the gate with red eyes. He says it wasn't sitting on top of the gate, it was standing behind it, and it was taller than the graveyard gate with red eyes. And they both got back to town. I'll never forget that night. They were both white as ghosts, shaking. He's like, I don't know what it was. He said, I hit the gas and didn't look back. And like I said, this is a guy, you know, you could put a gun in his face and he'd look at you and tell you, you better pull the trigger. He's just that type. He wasn't afraid of nothing. And he's another one now. You couldn't get him back out there if you put a gun to his head. And people ask me why I won't go out there, and I was like, I know better men than me that went out there and don't go back. And I said, you just leave. Some stuff you just leave alone. You got any more stories of anything happened down there at your area with that name? Or?
No, it's been quiet the last month and a half. There ain't nothing been going on or anything. I ain't even had anybody call me.
Well, I never had anybody call me, but I don't know what it is about this area, this county, well, Tri-County area in general. It's like pulling teeth trying to get a story out of anybody about something like this. And you know, I tell them I won't mention your name, just give me the details, and I'll put what county it happened in, what time, date. Now, I won't even put a name. I'll just say, the witness, he or she. I was like, ain't nobody going to figure out who you are from he or she. And they just like, I don't want to talk about it. I don't. It's like I say, it's like pulling teeth. I ain't never seen nothing like it. And then, just when you least expect it, like I said, the people you least expect it from, you'll be like, well, there was that one time I was out in the woods and this happened, or I saw this, or I heard that. And I never really thought about it until now, when you asked me. And that goes back to most people ain't going to tell you they saw Bigfoot, but if you ask them if they ever saw or heard or found something strange in the woods, 9 out of 10 of them, if they're honest, will tell you yeah. If they spend any time out there at all. It's just and I really don't understand it, because you know it ain't like it used to be where if you talked about Bigfoot you were just flat crazy. Probably 20 years ago or so. I thought we kind of gotten past that, but I guess we have.
I have several that wants me to tell them what they saw. I said, you tell me the details, and you already know what you saw.
Yeah.
That most time I go, I don't know what I saw. I said, add up the details.
Well, like I said, I know you listen, and he probably gets tired of me mentioning him, but Wes on Sasquatch Chronicle talks about all the time. They'll tell him, I saw the funniest looking bear. Well, you know as well as I did, you didn't see no bear. That's what he tells them, you know. That wasn't a bear. It goes back to that. I don't know if I told you this about the buddy of mine that shed hunts. Goes way, deep out in the middle of nowhere looking for antler sheds. I heard the roar. He said, I don't know what it was, but it seemed like after it roared, even the wind stopped. And he said, I got out of there and I didn't go back. And stories like that, like I said, if you could get people to come forward. Yeah. But if you could get everybody that's had something like that to come forward, we think there's a lot of reports now. Just imagine if everybody that's heard something like that don't necessarily believe in Bigfoot, but they heard something or they saw something. And you get everybody like that to come forward, you talk about overwhelming evidence, they wouldn't be able to deny it anymore. You'd be dealing with probably a quarter of the population of the country. You going to tell them they're all crazy?
No, there's something going on at the very least. Yeah.
And that's another thing that don't make any sense to me, really. Like I said, I don't really believe in the supernatural side, but I don't believe they're just a dumb ape either. Because if they was just a dumb ape, why the cover-up? Why would they care if we knew there was an ape out there? We know there's apes in Africa and South America. They don't cover that up. So why would you cover one here up? That's the part that don't make any sense to me. There's got to be something else to them that they don't want to admit, whether it's a biblical connection or something else, that for whatever reason is the part that they don't want to admit or they think we can't handle.
It's the we can't handle and they can't control.
Yeah.
That's what they don't want to get out and let everybody become hysterical about.
Well, I don't know if
Just
people
like
would
that,
really become hysterical.
What I was telling,
Go ahead.
they would react somehow to it if the government come out and said, "Yeah, they're here."
Well, what I was thinking, you know, they had the big release over the summer. Well, they called it a big release about UFOs. And more or less all they said was, yeah, they're real. Well, tell us something we don't know. And what I was going to say is, you know, 50 or 60 years ago, it might have caused us, just like UFOs, it might have caused a panic. But now we're so used to seeing movies and TV shows and comic books and video games and everything else with monsters and UFOs. Not as much Bigfoot as aliens, but you know what I mean. It's almost like they've conditioned us more to accept it to where we could handle it if it come out it was true. Through Hollywood. So now if they did admit Bigfoot was real, I think it would be kind of like the UFO thing if they come out tomorrow and said, oh yeah, by the way, Bigfoot's real. A lot of people just look at them, well, no duh. Tell us something we don't know. And some people, like you said, might panic. I mean, there'd be a percentage that just couldn't wrap their head around it. But I think the mass majority, thanks to stuff like Harry and the Hendersons and finding Bigfoot and everything else, yeah, we knew that. Lost my train of thought. There's something else I was going to bring up that kind of tied into that. Oh, what you was talking about, you know, it's going to take a body to satisfy the scientific community. I'm wondering if at some point in time we're going to reach a point, well, I'm already there, where we stop worrying about satisfying the mainstream scientific community. Where it just comes to a point, like I said, where if there's enough video evidence, enough witnesses, enough hair, enough DNA and all that, where, say, 75% of the population is like, yeah, Bigfoot's real. I don't care what the media or the government or the scientific community tells me, they're real. And it gets to that point where we just don't need the mainstream society, scientific community's stamp of approval. I mean, they've stuck their head in the sand for 60 years about it now. Let them keep it there. Stick your head in the sand, the rest of us will move on without you. I wish more people would kind of adapt that attitude. Some people say it's a bad attitude I've got about the scientific community, but if more people would kind of adapt that attitude and just, all right, fine, we'll do it without you. And if you're not going to prove the real, we will, you know? If more people would kind of take that attitude, you might see the scientific community kind of, well, wait a minute. They'll be taking off without us, you know? Because you know, if a body is found, the minute it's found, the scientific community is going to do a complete 180. Oh, we knew they were real all along. Oh, yeah, now.
Yeah.
That's exactly what will happen. They'll all jump on the bandwagon then. But if it was up to me, you know, that stagecoach is leaving the station.
Yeah. Then they'll say, well, our test all along was right, the DNA, because this subject is an actual living Neanderthal or a one of them. I
Yeah.
posted on the Arkansaw Bigfoot Cartel the difference in the Neanderthal and I can't say that word. Devonian individual. If you look
Yeah.
at them skulls from them for humans, they got the pointed top on the skull, just like Sasquatch has got.
Mm-hmm.
So, who's to say that these ain't just some of them that's still around?
Well, the biggest problem I have with that is the same one I have with the whole Gigantopithecus theory. Every actual bone they found of Gigantopithecus so far, I ain't gonna say I could put them in a shoebox, but I could put them in a good sized box and have room they would fit. They found like a jawbone, I think maybe part of a skull and a few teeth. And that's really all they got to go on to prove Gigantopithecus ever existed. Now, that goes back to what you said. We got all this proof of Sasquatch does exist. And the mainstream scientific community, oh, no, you don't have any proof. But we've got this jawbone and a couple teeth and half a skull, so Gigantopithecus must have existed. It's kind of the same with Neanderthals. I don't think we really have that many bones or skeletons or anything. One here, there, and yonder. And I read an article, it's been a while back, it was in a book, it was called Dinosaurs in the Bible, is what got me reading it. And it was talking about the carbon dating process and how it is completely inaccurate. Have you read anything on that?
Because of the flood.
Yeah.
The flood.
We went into more detail than that.
On the earth.
Go ahead.
If you ever look, Dr. Kent Hovind, he does a whole series on how the flood changed all the carbon dating and everything from the pressure that was put down. And if you ever find dinosaurs, they're in layers where it's been layered up, where animals washed to one spot and buried themselves in layers, how a flood does. That points right to the flood. And it happened around the world. So,
Oh, there's all kinds of proof of the flood. But this book here, I forget, it used a lot of big scientific words that I can't say or spell. But basically, the way they disproved carbon dating is they took a piece of oak, petrified wood off of a tree and took it in. And I was like, we found this, we want you to date it, tell us how old it is. Well, they come back 60,000 years old or whatever. Well, the tree was only, I think, a little over 100 years old because they counted the rings on trees to get their age. Something like it. Anyway, this tree completely blew carbon dating out of the water. They was off by 50,000 years or whatever. And like I said, they use a lot of big terms and stuff that I can't remember right now. And of course, that's one of them, the guy that wrote that book, he's got letters behind his name, just like the guys that write the mainstream science books. But to hear them tell it, he's fringe. He don't know what he's talking about. He's a crackpot. He's fringe. Just like they've done to Meldrum with their DNA studies. Oh, she didn't do it right. She's fringe. She don't know what she's doing. Blah, 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 blah. Well, the funny thing is, before she connected her studies to Bigfoot and the Nephilim and angels and everything, nobody had a problem with Dr. Meldrum. Her work was as good as anybody else's until she told them something they didn't want to hear. I always said she found the truth and it wasn't the truth they could handle, so they turned on her. And about the only two I know of that stuck with her has been Pilates and Scott Carpenter. You ever follow either? Do you follow Scott Carpenter at all?
No, I hadn't talked to him.
Uh-oh, we got voices again. That didn't sound like either one of us at all there. That was weird.
No,
That was
I don't
really.
know what
Did you hear it?
Yeah.
That was weird. Makes you wonder. Yeah. Well, that's my
Yeah, who's
pitch.
watching, listening?
It's funny when we get on certain topics or certain points in the general topic that it starts up. We got into the whole flood, and all of a sudden the voices are back. I can't remember what we were talking about a while ago when it happened. Have to go back and watch. About like when the helicopter was buzzing around down here a month or so ago. You remember me talking about that?
Yeah.
We had a helicopter buzzing around. I looked at Mom and said, maybe I got somebody's attention. Which I don't think it had anything to do with me. But yeah, I don't think it had anything to do with me. But the first couple times he buzzed through here real low, I was like, huh. Are they looking for something in the woods, or are they just watching me? Which I joke with my friends all the time. They'll ask me about something. I said, I'm not saying anything that's going to put me on another watch list. He's like, what do you mean another? I was like, I'm sure I'm on plenty of them already. I don't need to do anything to get myself on anymore. I mean, if you guys are watching and listening to me, hey, how you doing? God bless you. I'm glad the government's got nothing better to do than listen to me rant and rave. Sent me another attachment.
Yeah, that's you was talking about the age of Earth and the fossil record and how it all changed. You watch that guy there. When you get a chance, it goes all into how the biblical timeline all fits in and how it's obvious that the carbon dating and all that's wrong.
Yeah. Well, I think it's funny. It's not just carbon dating as far as proof of the Bible, vindication of the Bible. Not that me and you know the Bible's real. We don't need anybody to prove it real to us. You got the mountain over in Turkey, which I can't think of the name of it off the top of my head, that they found a giant wooden boat on top of this mountain, and the government immediately sealed the entire area off. Now, where have I heard a story about a giant wooden boat that come to rest on top of a mountain when the water went down? Huh. Sound familiar?
Yeah.
And then you got a spot out in the desert somewhere. There's another one, you got a spot out in the desert somewhere around Iran or Iraq or somewhere where like 400 feet below the desert floor, the sand is fused to glass. Well, we all know the kind of heat it takes to fuse sand to glass. So what could have done that long enough ago that it would be buried 400 feet down now? Well, they get to looking, and lo and behold, this is about the location they believed Sodom and Gomorrah was located. And something fused the sand to glass, well, this story sounds kind of familiar. Yeah. Sounds almost like hellfire to me. And the last one, the Red Sea.
Yep.
The chariot wheels and stuff they found on the bottom of it. Well, gee, I wonder how them got there. Every time something like that comes, something like that comes out, I was like, it seems like I read about this somewhere before. Well, wait a minute. Yeah, when I was about 6 reading childhood Bible study stories. And now the smartest person on the planet is a Christian woman from Israel. Have you seen that? This girl's only 20-something, and she's a fundamentalist Christian from Israel. She's only 20-something, and she took the test that's above the IQ test that they give to people that are too smart for an IQ test, like Einstein, Tesla, Hawkins, guys like that. And she blew all of them out of the water. A Christian woman from Israel. And she's real big into like string theory and quantum physics and all that Ron Moorhead talks about. I thought that was just the coolest thing in the world. The smartest person on this planet is a Christian woman from Israel. That has to just eat certain people up right there.
Got to,
But,
yeah.
oh, yeah. Like I said, she's really into the whole string theory and quantum physics and all that. You ever read any of Brian Moorhead stuff? Any of that quantum physics and stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't know if you'd read it. Yeah. I just finished his book, The Quantum Bigfoot, and I'll have to read it 3 more times before I really understand it. But it was thought-provoking, especially the way he tied it and the Bible together.
Yeah.
Did you have a take on it, or?
It's beyond me, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's what I said.
The universe is complex. I was surprised the other day. I was reading in the Word and or the Bible, and the Word it says that everything that's created here is a matrix, and that's the first time I'd ever read that word in the Bible is matrix in the Bible, and then you get to thinking about the movie The Matrix, and so maybe they wasn't far off when they was saying that, and we're just walking in a hologram.
Well, not just the movies. There's been other actual scientific studies that the entire universe is like a matrix computer program or hologram or whatever, like you said. And like, what part of the Bible was that in where it used the word matrix?
That was in the Bible.
What's that?
KJV.
What book or verse or chapter? I have to look that up because I'm like you. I'd never.
I'll look it up. I'll message it back to you. I forget what I was reading, but let me see if I can find it.
Yeah, I'd like to see that because I'm like you. I'd never noticed the word matrix used in the Bible. But I do remember I'm not good at quote. I believe you. I was gonna say I'm not good at quoting chapter and verse, but somewhere in the Bible it flat says the mind of God is not the mind of man. There's just some things we're just never going to understand. Yeah. At least not this side of the pearly gates. And I think that goes a long ways into explaining a whole lot of stuff we don't understand. We're just not meant to.
I got it. It's Numbers 18, verse 15. Everything that opens in the matrix in the all flesh, which they bring unto the Lord, whether it be of men or beasts, shall be thine. Nevertheless, the firstborn of man shall thou surely redeem, and the firstlings of unclean beasts shall thou redeem. Numbers 18 and 15.
18 and 15, okay. I was listening to you read it there. It kind of tied in the part that said all will be revealed. Well, it even says in the Bible, eventually all things will be revealed to us. And everything done in the dark will be revealed in the light. Well, boy, if that happens, a lot of people are in trouble. A lot of people in real high positions will be in trouble.
Yeah.
Which they're going to be eventually. It's like the old saying, heads are going to roll when that comes around.
Sure enough.
Oh, that's what it reminded me of. Do you remember the other night when we were on the podcast with Ricky and them, and the guy was telling the story about the campfire and counting? And he kept talking about how they put 3 stones inside the campfire, or the fire pit inside the fire. The whole time he was telling that, did it bring anything to mind for you? Yeah. The 3 boys in the fire, and when the king had the counselor look in, he said, I see 4 figures, and one of them's appears to be the Son of Man. The whole time he was talking about that 3 stones in the fire, that whole, I had goosebumps coming up on my arms. Because the second he said that, I was like, 3 in the fire. they threw 3 witnesses into the fire, and when they looked in, there was 4 because Jesus was in there with them. I was like, they might be trying to tell you more than just, hey, we can count. I mean, that absolutely gave me the chills when he told me that. That's why I was sitting there, well, I couldn't get a word in edgewise. That's why I was being so quiet. Some of them stories they were telling me. Yeah. You got one in. That was better than I did. Which I was all right. I was content to sit back and listen to them. But that one in particular and a couple of them other stories they told, I was like, yeah.
I was trying to learn a little bit and understand, and I don't really want to say learn, but just from what I was hearing, is they was dealing with more than normal Sasquatch. So,
quite possible. Like I said, that one story when he told that, and it was like he wasn't even finished telling the story yet, and I'd already made that connection in my head between that and the Bible story. I'm like, is it just me? Am I the only one that clicked for? Or maybe that's just the way my brain works. I don't know. Well, it's just like the other guy that Ricky has on all the time from Colorado that had the structure. Second he popped it on the screen, they're all talking about how they got a 360-degree view. Everything. I'm sitting there looking at it and staring. Ricky's like, Barry, what are you looking at? I was like, y'all don't see the cross? And everybody's like, what? I was like, right in the middle of that structure, there's 2 limbs or branches or whatever they were, 2 big pieces of wood. I mean, it was almost symmetrical to me. Dead center, almost perfect, formed a cross. And it was one of them things, once I pointed out, him and Blake, and the other guy's like, well, you're right, that is a cross. I was like, it was the first thing my eyes locked on.
Yeah.
Everything else around it was all right, but I mean, it was just like right there to me. You could not see it. Like I said, I don't know if that's just the way my brain's wired or what. I've told people I look to the Bible for answers to everything, just like you said. Maybe sometimes I see answers and connect dots that ain't there to connect, but oh well, I guess I could have worse habits.
Yeah.
Oh,
well,
we are just over 2 hours.
To my theory.
Oh, go ahead.
I was saying, I've seen all kinds of crosses and everything in these structures, and other stuff of the Jewish faith, and that would get back to a lot of these. I believe is in the Jewish language is a actual word symbol for water or whatever, or food or nourishment, and it looks just like old ancient Hebrew writing. These symbols that people find. So
yeah, I saw that.
Why wouldn't they be?
Glyph chart you sent me, that blew my mind.
Yeah,
I was like, these are what people call Sasquatch glyphs, and here's an ancient Hebrew alphabet, and you put them side by side, and they start matching up, and I was just,
yeah.
We got our first comment 2 hours in.
A lot of it is just.
Louis Felipe, hey, I believe in Bigfoot. We do too, Louis. I don't believe, I know. It ain't a matter of belief for me anymore. I don't have to believe. Just like God, I don't have to believe, I know.
I know. He shook me and woke me up one night.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah. Well, I don't have days that I doubt God. But every now and then, when it comes to Bigfoot, I'll be sitting there and I'm thinking, am I just crazy? I mean, is my imagination just running away with me with all this? And then something like that video happens. Well, if my imagination's running away with me, Wendell's is too, and the other lady that saw it is too. So it ain't just me. And then I'm like, all right, yeah, I haven't finally cracked. if other people see it too. So yeah, I'm okay. Then I go back. Yeah, I don't believe in Bigfoot. I know Bigfoot. I think everybody does this for a while though. Has them days where you're sitting out there in the woods and you're looking around, ain't nothing going on. And you're just like, am I finally losing my mind? Am I just wasting my time out here? And then you hear a wood knock in the distance, and well, guess not. Well,
Here's
like I said, we're a little bit.
I've been
Go ahead.
researching that kind of blow your mind. They was talking about certain of the Native American species looks at Bigfoot as a helper or big brother, and people say, well, they've helped me out in certain incidents and everything.
Mm-hmm.
It's not in the Bible, but in the Book of Enoch, that's the only way a giant species can be saved and go to heaven, if they help one of us mortals as far as normal mortals. So that could be something that correlates and ties into it.
I still haven't got around to reading the Book of Enoch.
Research.
It's one of the things. Every time somebody tells me I should read it, I'll have somebody in the church or another Christian. You don't want to read that. So right there I am, right in the middle. Like I said, a lot of Bigfoot researchers will be like, you got to read the Book of Enoch. And then somebody in the church will be like, you don't want to read the Book of Enoch. It's not in the Bible. It's not part of the Bible. To which I say, well, neither were the Dead Sea Scrolls, but most people accept them as gospel now. I don't know why the Book of Enoch is any different when it was found not that far from the Dead Sea Scrolls.
To be in the King James Bible or the normal Bible, they had to have 3 copies from 3 different subjects. And if that scripture didn't have 3 different, I say copies, but 3 different, something to back it up, like another book in the Bible back it up, it didn't appear in the Bible. Which the Book of Enoch only has 2 references in the Bible, so it didn't appear in the Bible.
One's in Jacob, isn't it?
Yeah. It only got two in there. So one's Jacob, and I hate it when that leaves. Just it's gone. But anyway, that's the only way that one of them can be saved and enter heaven or enter back into God's grace, is to protect one of us. So
I lost your camera. You still there? There you are. Camera cut out for a second.
Yeah, I don't know why. I just had to plug it and plug it back, and it went back to work. And I guess it's telling me that's enough.
I was getting ready to say I can't believe
that's enough.
I was getting ready to say I can't believe the internet's actually behaved itself as long as it has. This might be after that rough patch at the very beginning, this might be the best uninterrupted show we've done. I think I dropped out once for a few seconds, and you dropped out once for a few seconds. Other than that, Ricky missed it.
Yep.
We'll have to rub it in, Ricky. Everything goes smooth when you ain't here. No, we got to pray for him. He said he was lifting salt sacks or something, 50-pound salt sacks or something already back. I hurt my back a couple weeks ago. I ain't going
to swimming pool.
Yeah. Like I said, after I hurt my back a couple weeks ago, I ain't going to deny anybody prayer for that, because I got up that morning and Mom will tell you, I'm not the guy that says, I got to go to the doctor. Something ain't right. I got up that morning and I looked at her and I was like, I got to go to the doctor. Something ain't right. And I mean, I couldn't hardly stand up straight. I couldn't hardly sit up straight. The night before, I couldn't hardly lay in the bed and sleep. So yeah, he's got my sympathy with a back injury. Only thing worse would be a toothache.
Mine too. I'll be.
Yeah. Well, like you said, I don't know if somebody's trying to tell us something or what. Maybe they've been trying to tell us something all night. We just wasn't listening. About like we couldn't get a word in edgewise the other night. Whoever it was trying to tell us something couldn't get it in tonight.
Yep.
Ricky will watch this and be mad at us.
Even during, yeah, even during
well, what, he can't be mad.
That they ain't more viewer comments or questions.
Yeah, like I said, like you said, it was kind of last minute. And it's Saturday night. I know we got a rodeo going on over here, so that's probably where all my buddies are at. I was just too tired. I got off work at 5. I went out there. They're having a barbecue cook-off. I paid $10 just to get in and get to the barbecue shack. Turned around and left.
Oh, yeah.
I stood there and looked at the horses for a minute and admired them, and I was like, yep, them some pretty horses. It was a high school rodeo, so I don't think they had any bulls or anything. Probably just barrel racing, maybe some trick riding, right. Stuff like that. I stood there and looked at some of the horses for a minute, and I was like, yeah, those are pretty horses. I'm taking my barbecue and going home.
Going home, yeah.
Oh. Well, I've had a great time. I appreciate you coming on and hanging out with me. Ricky, if you ever get around to watching this, we're just busting your chops about not getting a word in edgewise. It was your show and you couldn't get a word in edgewise. There's a couple other guys doing enough talking for all of us combined. Which is fine. Like I said, I'll sit there and, like Wendell said, try to learn something. I didn't really have much to add to it anyway.
Yeah.
I had a couple questions I'd like to ask if I got the chance, maybe next time. Because there was a couple things they said, like I said, it was interesting. I'd like to went into more detail on them, but I couldn't ever get the chance. Maybe next time. Well, Ricky, we'll pray for you out there wherever you at, buddy. What's that?
That Rick guy, the Rick guy, what did he see the Bigfoot make the owl sound on? Was it just natural eyes, or was it a thermal vision that when he said that he saw a Bigfoot do the whoop like an owl? And I was wondering if he saw it through the
where it got choked and then tried again.
Or
you talk about the part where he's talking about he started an owl call and then got choked and had to start again. Yeah, I'm like you.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, that was 2 or 3 times I'd like to ask a question. I just never got a chance. That's all right. Maybe I can have him on one night and talk to him and we can ask him. Or Ricky will have him on again or something. Like I said, I almost felt like tonight we had to give him kind of a warning. Some of the stuff you're messing with probably would not be. Well, like you said, we've been on here, going on 2.5 hours now. So we're going to cut it off. Thanks for having me, being with me. Been a great conversation as usual.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me and being able to come on here.
We'll have to do it again sometime. Hopefully Ricky can be with us. There's a couple others I'd like to get on here. Yeah. You ever talk to Hal Lane down in Florida? Or maybe Hal Lane's in Georgia.
I don't know where he's at, but through a different show asking questions, I hadn't personally talked to him like this.
I had him on once. Maybe twice. Anyway. we just keep getting off on tangents here. All right, man. Have a good night. God bless you.
Yeah. God bless you.
See you later.
Figure out how to get out of here.